I'm Stephanie, and welcome to Wine Club. This is the playlist where I drink good wine while I whine about bad books. And today's offender is a Reese's Book Club pick, but The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. So I actually read this as a part of my book club, like an actual book club that meets in person. But I actually already had it sitting on my to-be-read shelf, so that worked out really nicely for me. So before I get into the review, I do want to say that there are going to be spoilers in this video, and I will be talking about plot points like you've read the book too, or don't care if the twists are spoiled. And as I always say in my reviews, this is about the book and not about the author as a person. I'm sure she is absolutely lovely. But let's go ahead and see what this promised. And I'm just going to preface this now. I am probably not going to pronounce anyone's names or places correctly in this, so please forgive me. The newly renovated Hotel Les Sommets, a former sanatorium high in the Swiss Alps, has long been plagued by dark rumors. When Detective Ellen Warner's estranged brother, Isaac, and his fiancée, Lori, invite her to celebrate their engagement at the hotel, Ellen reluctantly accepts. Arriving in the midst of a threatening storm, Ellen immediately feels on edge. And when Lori suddenly vanishes, Ellen must trust her instincts if they hope to find her. When the snow cuts off all access to Les Sommets, the remaining guests start to panic. Then another woman disappears, and she's the only person who could have warned them of just how much danger they are all in. So again, her name could be Elin, Ellen, it's E-L-I-N. I did go to high school with an Elin, E-L-Y-N, so it probably is Elin. I'm just going to say Ellen, because that's the name that comes easily to me. So first up, this was mid, as the kids say. I will say something positive. The setting was really well done. I could feel the cold from the blizzard and the surrounding snow, and I could picture this hotel quite vividly. So I think Pierce excels in setting the stage and making the setting really come to life. The setting was also pretty unique in that it was a high-end, luxury resort built inside a standing sanatorium. She created some really great atmosphere and just added some real chills to this thriller. I also was entertained while reading it, which counts for something. I was slightly skimming by the end, but that was also so I could finish it in time for my book club meeting so we could discuss the book. But the first, let's say 25 to maybe 50% of the book was really gripping and I was hooked. But it felt like at the end, Pierce was trying to do too much or just trying too hard and forcing twists and themes into the story that were just never properly set up in the first place. The themes themselves were very important, but it was so blatant and in your face, and it felt like it was really disjointed from the rest of the story. The ending kept building and building and building, and then just fizzled out and felt pretty weak, and I really had to suspend a lot of disbelief. So let's talk about the story itself. Ellen is going to this hotel to celebrate her estranged brother Isaac's engagement to her old best friend, Lori. It's a tale as old as time. The reason she and Isaac are estranged is because Ellen is convinced that he had something to do with their younger brother, Sam, dying when they were children. It is a pretty interesting reason that they were estranged, but when the reveal comes, it opens up not just a plot hole, but a plot chasm. Ellen is finally going to confront Isaac about Sam's death and find out what Isaac did. And we find out it wasn't Isaac. Isaac did nothing. Dun dun dun. Sam fell while they were pretty much cliff jumping, and he hit a rock, got a head wound, and died from that. And Ellen was watching, and basically out of fight, flight, or freeze, she froze and couldn't really process what happened, and so Isaac rushed to help, but it was too late because Sam was already gone. So then Ellen has a flashback to after Sam's death when she sits with her mom and her mom like flinches away from Ellen's touch, and Ellen realizes what Isaac has said is true. Her whole family knew or feels that Sam died because of her and her inaction. But that doesn't really work, as she didn't cause his death. It was an accident, and we're told that it was instantaneous for Sam. There really was nothing that she could have done either way. Plus, she was a child herself. But I don't get how this can be a big revelation. Like, obviously, if her mom's flinching away from her, she must have treated Ellen differently for the rest of her life. So how did she not realize that her mom blames her? Like, why did Ellen never ask her mom what was going on between them, or why her mom was flinching away or treating her differently? How did she not talk about it being Isaac's fault and someone correcting her? I know it's just for the sake of a twist, but I don't think it really works, because it just disregards all this history that would have happened. It also doesn't work for the story, as when Ellen does find out the truth, she has like one nightmare about it, and then it's done. She never really thinks about it again. Well, that was easy. Barely an inconvenience getting over her brother's death that has haunted her entire life. So let's go back to the main plot. So Ellen came to confront Isaac and reconnect with Laurie, Isaac's fiance, who was Ellen's best friend when they were children, but Ellen basically cut Laurie out of her life after what happened to Sam. It's a little understandable. She was going through a lot. And Laurie goes missing on their first night. And then a body has been placed in the pool for them to find and like draw them out. So this was something that I think could have been cut. So we have Adele, who's a housekeeper, and she's the first body to show up. But we get several chapters from her point of view, but ultimately they add nothing to the story except to up the page count. I don't know if it was done to have more of an impact when she dies, as we know a bit more about her, and she was a pretty likable person, but it felt like kind of an odd choice. So they find Adele's body in a pool, and her fingers have been cut off, as you do, and she's wearing an old 1920s like gas mask sort of thing that is like tight on her face and has tubing coming out of it. Ellen wonders if it's murder. Ellen, sweetie, I don't think Adele cut off her own fingers, put on a mask, and then tied herself to a sandbag so she would drown in the pool. You're a fucking detective. Put the clues together, girl. Honestly, there were a lot of times in this that it was really hard to take Ellen as a detective seriously, because she's a detective, that is her job. She's constantly thinking, the outline of a thought came to me, but is gone before I can grasp its meaning. And I mean constantly. Used once or twice, it could actually be pretty effective. But mostly I just wonder how this detective can't concentrate and create a fully formed thought. She also put some clues together by following a trail of chipped nail polish that apparently the killer forgot and is constantly shedding wherever they go. So you're telling me that she can spot chipped nail polish on the floor to figure out who the killer is, but wonders if this woman whose fingers have been cut off and is wearing a gas mask, if it was murder. Ellen, sweetie, please, catch up. So another thing with Ellen is she likes to zero in on people. And she becomes so zeroed in on who she thinks is her suspect and basically turns her blinders on. It must be Isaac. Oh, guess it's not him. Must be Laurie. She knows it's Laurie. Oh, Laurie's dead. Oh, now she knows it's Margot. Oh, Margot's dead. Oh man, it's gotta be Lucas. Like, nope, not him either. Like, you are supposed to Follow evidence. You are supposed to keep an open mind until the evidence leads you to who it is. But nope, she just zeroes in and she knows, and it's never who she knows it's supposed to be. So I kind of gave it away. But yes, Laurie did not just disappear like Isaac said she did, but she is in fact deceased and has been staged with she's also wearing a gas mask thing, and her fingers have also been taken and placed in a glass box with some bracelets that have numbers. So Ellen knows that this place used to be a sanatorium and that those bracelets were probably tied to something medical, like their patient files. But it takes her way too long to connect the dots. But this is where the story starts to go off the rails. We know the killings are linked to the sanatorium, but also not really, but also very much so. We find out that Margot, who is a staff member at the hotel, has a great-grandma that lived at the sanatorium, and it's not because she had tuberculosis, but because she was basically used as a lab rat for medical experiments. So the obvious conclusion is Margot is doing this to protect Lucas's hotel. Except Margot gets killed. Now, Ellen knows who is behind all of this. She knows who killed Margot, Laurie, and Adele, and an architect named Daniel who died way back at the beginning of the book. And she figures this out on page without letting us into her thought process. So in the book, it's written, "My theory, it's right. It's then, as she looks, that something else pulls into her consciousness. Something so subtle, it might never have found her unless she'd made the other connection. There's no doubt now. She just hopes she's not too late." What is this? Skip this part if you're not going to let us in and tell us what connection she's made. I know, it's there just to ramp up tension, but it's crap. Anywho, she puts the puzzle together without letting us in and realizes that it's not Lucas, the hotel owner, it's his sister, Cecile. And her motivation, it's pretty weak, but it's because when she was a teenager, she was R-worded by Daniel, the architect and Lucas's best friend. And Lucas didn't stop Daniel, nor tell his parents that she was assaulted. Okay, I get why she would want to target Daniel and take him out, but then her motivation for taking out Adele and Laurie was kind of weak and very far-fetched. Margot was simply a loose end, but she took out Adele and Laurie because they stood by while men got away with terrible things or took bribes to keep quiet about stuff. The stuff being what happened to Margot's great-grandma and other women way back when. Cecile launches into her villain monologue and how she's seeking justice for those women and needing to share their stories. Okay, I kind of get it, but this is where the story started to feel like it was trying to do too much and tie things together that while they could fit, they didn't fit in this particular story. It could have been avenging those women, but we also then don't need the Daniel subplot. And Lucas should have been the only target for trying to cover up the sanatorium's history. It's just a bit hard to swallow that Cecile is doing this for women, but most of the victims are in fact women. Again, it feels like Pierce was trying to one-up herself and add in more like twists and themes that just really made the story messy in the end. It's not simple, it's not clean. Ellen convinces Cecile to let her anger go and not hurt her brother. She and Isaac are going to be okay, and Ellen and her boyfriend Will are going to be okay. And I realized I haven't talked much about Will, but that's because he's kind of a jerk. He's always described as being frustrated with her and kind of condescending to her at times. She's always apologizing, and for things that Ellen shouldn't be apologizing for. I mean, she's not doing herself any favors with some of the choices she makes, like constantly going off on her own to face who she thinks is the killer, but Will doesn't have to be such a tool either. Especially considering her history and the fact that her mom died recently. He seems really upset that she can't just get past it, which is hilarious since she pretty much does in the story. Oh, my brother told me the truth and I had one scene examining what this means? Okay, I'm over it. My entire life has been haunted by Sam and what happened to him, but now I'm A-okay. There's a point in this where she was worried that Will might die, and all I could think was, good, let him. And of course, by the end of the book, she's showing him furniture that they should buy when they move in together. Good luck, you lovebirds. Now, I have seen that this is part of a series, and I gotta say, I wasn't that attached to Ellen to continue reading about her in other books. If we're setting up a character-based series, make me love the character and want to see her in different settings and stories. I just wanted a lot more depth to Ellen. Pierce tried giving her some past traumas that she's dealing with, but she deals with them rather quickly, and I felt no connection to her overcoming her past. She also felt really aloof when she was supposed to be coming alive during this investigation, and I just didn't see it. I don't see how she's a good detective. I gave this 3 out of 5 stars originally, but then after the discussions at my book club, I ended up lowering my rating to 2.5. I liked it enough. I've read worse, but I've also read better. Though now that I've finished this wine club episode, I'm wondering if maybe it's even lower in the 2-star range. Whatever. If you have recommendations for books set in a remote location or are locked room murder mysteries, please leave your recs in the comments below, as I would love to check those out. Otherwise, thanks so much for joining me at Wine Club.